Hello everyone, I'm Gabriel Lori and I have been working in the film and television industry for more than 10 years as a compositing artist, primarily using Nuke as my main tool and a variety of other software depending on the period, the project, and my skill set. In recent years, as anyone in the field knows, we have gone through or are currently going through a major crisis with many large and small studios going bankrupt or folding overnight. The rise of AI has added even more confusion and anxiety to our lives and to the industry in which I work. Because of this and because I love technology, I decided to focus my attention and energy on studying Comfyui and everything that surrounds it and to embrace change instead of fearing it. Consider these tutorials as coming from someone with a short memory who has to look at their notes to remember what they have done. So let's start with this first simple tutorial that helped me achieve a good level of realism, which I wanted to share with you.
As you can see, this is an image of a girl depicted in Rome near the lake in Villa Borghese. It was generated locally, thus creating a realistic image without having to spend credits or subscribe to powerful platforms such as Nano Banana or Grok, which are increasingly subject to copyright restrictions or censorship and are often limiting when producing a film in this workflow to improve realism and use a base on which to work in post-production. I also used Seed VR2 Upscaler and Face Detailer. The workflow reads from left to right and is based on a standard Z-Image workflow, Qwen Tree 4B as clip, Z-Image Turbo B16 as diffusion model, and Vey is EAE. I used the get node and set nodes of the custom node KJ to make the workflow easier to read. In short, you can connect the set node to a specific one and then call it up with the get node in order to minimize confusion between the connections and eliminate the possibility of creating a spider tree that would make everything visually much more confusing. The prompt is the part I worked on the most. I used Ollama as a model GPT-OS 220 so that I could always work locally and make countless versions until I got the one I wanted. The prompt was divided into categories, a summary of the scene and a series of specifications such as the camera, blur, historical period, main subject, her acting, and description of the location. What I can share is that the rendering is very good, but adherence to the prompt is not the best. I haven't tested it yet to make it realistic, but it would seem that Z-Image Base has this skill at the expense of realism. So depending on the project you need to do, keep that in mind. Furthermore, during my research, I came across this wonderful custom node called Z-Image Power Nodes. The creator of this custom node ran a series of benchmarks in order to optimize the parameters behind it and make processing as simple and efficient as possible. As you can see, there are a number of presets that I recommend you try initially so that you can test them and choose the one you prefer. I then used Seed Upscaler to increase the detail. After a series of tests, in my case, the parameters found effectively detailed the image, showing artifacts on the face. I solved this by using Face Detailer, trying to make the face more pleasing with a more striking expression. To see the before and after, I used Image Comparer between the various stages of the base render of Z-Image Turbo, Seed Upscaler, and Face Detailer, as you can see within this workflow. In Face Detailer, I took particular care not to push the parameters too far in order to make the face as natural as possible, making small but substantial improvements by working on the denoise, sampler, and steps parameters. It is worth noting the use of the Bibokes collector in the SAM model YOLO face to limit the processing area to the face only, helping to define the girl's features. These precautions, in addition to those mentioned above, make the intervention specific and accurate. With this image as a basis, I moved on to the next step, the upscaler. At the moment, after various tests, including within Comfyui, I have not found an upscaler that can compare to Topaz. For this reason, I decided to use it for both the upscaler and face recovery. This is necessary because, as happened within Comfyui where the increase in detail led to artifacts on the face, the same thing happened within Topaz. I suggest you test the parameters here too and make small adjustments using both realistic and creative modes. The improvement in detail must always be measured to avoid it becoming too accentuated, which could ruin all the good work done previously. You have to think of it as if it were a real photo. Very often, photos taken in these conditions have imperfections that make the image realistic. For this reason, the final tool I use is Nuke. In this case, I made a small color adjustment by opening up the blacks, slightly reducing the contrast of the image and increasing the defocus where necessary, adding a little light to give it a more artistic look than the parametrically perfect look that an AI image of this type normally has. I also used in-paint nodes to remove some artifacts that could reveal the artificial nature of the subject to the naked eye and added grain at the end of it all. The nodes used in Nuke are standard ones, but feel free to use a production workflow by first denoising the image and then reapplying the grain at the end of it all using an F-free grain or the Fantastic Dust Grain node. At the end of it all, I preferred to apply a very slight general blur to make the image details less sharp, thus replicating the rendering of a medium quality smartphone. Finally, I added a little grain to spoil the image a little more using one of the presets in the grain node in Nuke. Last but not least, I would like to say the following. When generating images with artificial intelligence today, it is essential to be aware of the regulatory framework introduced by the EU AI Act, the regulation approved by the European Union that is gradually coming into force and should be operational around August 2026. The law requires that AI-generated content, especially if realistic or potentially misleading, be clearly identifiable, including through metadata and watermarks. The aim is to ensure transparency, traceability, and protection for end users. The removal or deliberate circumvention of these identification systems can result in significant financial penalties, which in the most serious cases can run into millions of euros. That's why I chose to use Nuke AI, which correctly integrates watermarks and metadata in accordance with the requirements of the regulation, as well as allowing me to optimally organize my workflows, as you can see, with the ability to customize my export according to my needs and requirements. I would like to thank Casey from Numanicon for allowing me to try out their platform. The free plan is currently free of charge, so I recommend you test it out and let me know what you think. All this allows me to work in a creative and commercial environment while reducing legal risk. Being compliant today is not a limitation on creativity, but a guarantee of professionalism. This is my first tutorial, but there will be more, and I hope you enjoy them. Please feel free to write to me or comment with any positive or negative feedback. For example, if anyone knows how to replicate the quality of Topaz within Comfyui, please do not hesitate to write to me, and I will research it so that I can create a new tutorial using it on new projects. If you've made it this far, thank you for your attention. I suggest you subscribe to my channel or visit www.gabriellori.com for more information about me. Thank you for your patience, and I wish you all the best. See you in the next tutorial.